Alrighty, fellow Bulls fans, we've got a move, and it's one that's pretty much expected. Patrick Williams gets a 5-year, $90 million extension. And I'm going to preface this right away. Like, I know we see $90 million for Patrick Williams, who's sometimes kind of but at the end of the day, this is pretty standard for somebody of his skill set at this point. Because what does this put him at? $18 million, I believe. Yeah, $18 million for like an average NBA starter, like that's pretty much expected, especially considering how young he is and everything. So honestly, like just right off the bat, I think this is a pretty fair deal. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Patrick Williams. When Patrick Williams came in, he was a bit of a surprise, right? There was some rumors like before the draft and everything that he was going to go there and everything, and he was coming off the bench at Florida State, and people were like, "Oh, like what an interesting selection or whatever." And honestly, I the more film I watched of him, the more I fell in love with like his skill set and everything. And I'm still thrilled to have Patrick Williams on this team. I think he's a really interesting player. I honestly think where a lot of us Bulls fans get a little bit disappointed is in the lack of aggressiveness, right? There's just a lot of times where you can tell the games where he's just kind of doing what he does. He's maybe not the most aggressive player ever, and he's kind of just playing within a system. And then you can tell there's like games that like Billy Donovan is like, Patrick, I need you to go get some like fucking buckets, okay? Like go score, because he'll take like the first like 5 or 6 shots of the game and he'll really force them and it won't look very good. And it's like, okay. So that's kind of the thing with Patrick Williams, right? But I gotta tell you, I've worked very closely with a lot of people that have worked very closely with him, and we all say the same thing. We're like, this guy is so stupid talented. It's not even funny. And one thing that I've always felt is that there were too many guys in his way on this team when we got him, and that was kind of unfortunate. Because you got the Levines, DeRozans, Vucevic, and hell, like Kobe White, and guys like that, right, that have been on this team, and they were always going to be a higher priority than Patrick Williams. And, you know, that's fine. Like, that's what those guys are on the team to do, is to go get buckets and be the primary options and everything. But Patrick Williams has such an upside with, like, his passing and his ball handling and his shot creation and stuff that you're always kind of like, I'd like to see if he can become something. Like all the young Kawhi Leonard comparisons, I think, are somewhat valid, in all honesty. At the end of the day, he's not growing at that level, but he is just such a skilled player that I'd like to see more out of it. And I'm hoping that by the end of this offseason, we've cleared some sort of runway for him to actually go and do that, right? Because if we're looking at the team that we have right now, it's sounding like DeRozan's going to walk, right? And that's probably for the best. As much as I like DeMar DeRozan, probably time for him to go somewhere else. It's sounding like Zach LaVine is probably going to get traded in some capacity, and I know there's a lot of Bulls fans right now like, why hasn't Zach LaVine been traded yet? What's going on? Relax. Like, he's not the first domino of the offseason. Like, think about this from a GM point of view. Zach LaVine is a very good basketball player, but there's a couple other like dominoes that other people are going to be waiting to have fall first. And so they're going to wait for those to fall, and then a Zach LaVine trade is going to happen most likely, right? They're going to wait for the Paul Georges, the Klay Thompsons, how like a Valanciunas and stuff like that, because like teams want to know that they're not in on these other things anymore, so that then they feel confident enough to go after Zach LaVine, because they're like, okay, this is the best option left now. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, Zach LaVine, bum contract, whatever. It's a lot of money, but I think when you look at Zach LaVine, you have to realize what you are getting with him. Like, I'll always tell people, I'm like, I'm not sure you could name, or I'm pretty confident you can't name 10 better, like, just like scorers in the NBA than Zach LaVine. Like, I just don't really think that you could. He's truly like a do-it-all type guy, and like his ball handling, his finishing, his shooting, like his athleticism, like it's pretty nuts. And honestly, he's just one of the better like offensive players in the NBA because of that. You'll see people be like, he's a bad defender, and most of those people are just dum-dums on the internet that say stuff. And like, yes, Zach LaVine's defense, beginning of his career, not very good. This last season, not very good. I'll tell you though, from watching Bulls games and everything, and honestly, like even as a Bulls fan, the Bulls weren't my number one team watched last season, if you can believe that. Like I keep the statistics of it and everything, but they were not my number one team watched last year. And the Bulls just didn't have that like energy and fight and everything. They just didn't. And so I just don't put a lot of effort into that. Zach LaVine had some pretty good defensive seasons like in between those where he was really locked in, and he's not the best like on-ball defender, but off-ball he's actually like really good, and that reflects in like a lot of his defensive rating stats and everything. So that's what I think will happen with LaVine. So hopefully those guys will kind of be out of the way, and then what core are we kind of left with? we're going to have Giddey, we're going to have Kobe White, Patrick Williams somehow, right? Vucevic is still going to be on the team. Obviously, Buzelis is on the team now. You still got Dalen Terry that I just want to see developed because I'm very curious as to where Dalen Terry can go with some of his interesting skill sets that he has as like a ball handler and everything. So you're kind of left being like, okay, there's not like a ton of like scorers out there. Like it's going to be Vucevic most likely because he'll probably still be on the team unless you somehow convince Memphis to take him or something. That's really the only team I can envision like taking him at this point. But you've got all these guys. Kobe White's going to be doing his thing, and then you kind of hope that Patrick Williams is going to get a chance to go do a lot of these things. Obviously, he's had a couple health problems and everything, so we hope that just kind of corrects itself. But Giddey and those dudes and like even like Terry are going to be looking to set a lot of other people up, and somebody's going to have to be aggressive, and there's probably nobody that's more like talented than Patrick Williams in that situation. So I'm hoping that he's going to get the chance to really like show some things in this next season. And I mean, if Levine ends up coming back and everything, I know that kind of screws that up a little bit, but I feel like we have to give Patrick Williams like a chance to actually go out and do something. As far as the rest of free agency for the Bulls, I know they've talked about bringing like Andre Drummond back and everything, which I think would be an interesting move. Like I'm not going to hate on it, I guess, but like I don't really know like what the team would be doing by doing that. That's kind of a win now move. That's kind of interesting. Like Torrey Craig's coming back, which is good. I think he's a nice vet to have on the team, and it's not like he's going to sway us winning like 2 or 3 more games most likely. I just don't think he's going to be like that impactful, but I don't mind having the veteran presence on the team whatsoever. But and you know what? I didn't even mention like Ayo Dosunmu, so apologies about that. But there's just a lot of like interesting guys to try to develop on this team, and there's definitely a bit of a clog at the guard. Like, and I know this will come as a shock to like some Bulls fans, but I'm really not like too interested in the development of like Kobe White. Like I think he's a really good scorer and everything, and that's really, really cool. Outside of that, I just don't know what kind of value he brings, so he kind of has to be like a Jordan Clarkson type guy, which is cool. It's just we seem too far away for something like that to be valuable, and I feel like he could be much more valuable on like a contending team right now. I just don't think he's like a number one option type dude. And that's totally fine. I'm not sure we have that guy on this team yet, and that's why a rebuild is necessary. So that's just my take on it. I'm sure a lot of Bulls fans wouldn't mind just like a complete tear down of things and just be like, okay, let's see what we got with like Pat, Giddey, Terry, maybe like Dosunmu and stuff like that, and kind of just obviously a Buzelis now and everything. And it's just like, okay, let's see what we can get out of him. Just covering a couple other like NBA little tidbits here. Dominic Barlow, the San Antonio Spurs did not tender a qualifying offer to him, so he's an unrestricted free agent. Barlow's an interesting guy to me. Gives a lot of effort, decent size, mean mid-range jumper. Could be a guy that a team brings in because there's not a ton of bigs out there that might be able to surprise somebody just with his effort alone. So something to look forward to. More Pistons news. I don't like how much I have to talk about the Pistons on this channel as of late. And so they're bringing in JB Bickerstaff, and this is a confusing move to me as well. Obviously, their coaching search has seemed pretty sporadic and kind of all over the place this offseason. Bringing in Bickerstaff is interesting. It's just, to me, like, this guy just got fired, like, not very long ago, and now you're like, oh, well, this guy can fix us, a guy that was literally in, like, our division and everything, and got fired from not being able to develop, like, a pretty good roster and everything like that and bring them to the next level, and, you know, you can blame whatever you want on that at the end of the day. Obviously, J.B. Bickerstaff's a phenomenal, like, basketball coach to be at the level that he's at, but, like, I'm just confused by this move again. Like, what is... I keep talking about the message that's being sent to people, and it's like, all right, guys, we're starting this rebuild and everything. We're going to start turning things around. We want that guy that, like, our rival just fired and everything and doesn't want. It's kind of like, okay, like, I don't know. I don't get it. If you guys have, like, a stronger opinion on it, I'm here to, like, hear you guys out on it. I just think it's a weird move, like, just from, like, a business standpoint and everything, and you're giving him another, like, 5-year contract and everything. Like, whatever you had to do to get him, I guess, if you really think that he's your guy. But again, I have questions about that nonetheless. But man, like, teams are just paying some of these coaches and just kicking them to the curb really quick. Building off the Klay Thompson news from yesterday, it sounds like the Warriors are pretty prepared to just help him get where he needs to go, which is a classy move by the Warriors. I expect nothing less than everything from everything that he's done. My brain honestly still can't comprehend this, and the basketball fan in me, I'm not going to lie, is pretty disappointed in this. This obviously sets up some really good story arc for when Klay returns to the Warriors someday or something like that. I don't know. It's just... I like to see these guys like stay one place in their career, and that's a selfish thing of me as a fan at the end of the day, but I don't know, it's kind of a bummer. So where do we think he's going to go, right? If they're trying to negotiate the trade to make it happen because teams don't have the cap space to give him what he wants, like you presume that the Lakers are probably going to throw a ton at him. I'm sure the Mavericks are going to try to make something happen. That seems kind of like, to me at the end of the day. It just feels like the Lakers is what makes the most sense. So I don't know. I don't know how much I love that fit necessarily compared to some of the other places. It makes more sense than like a Philly, an Orlando, or like a Dallas, right? Because you presume you're going to have a lot of really good basketball minds out there doing everything possible to get him open looks. And so you're like, okay, that makes some sense, right? And so you talk about the prospect of having like a Chris Paul on the team even or something around like a JJ Redick and LeBron James, and you're like, okay, he's going to get open looks, right? Like, that's just no question whatsoever. And then hopefully he brings some value that way. But I don't know. I find it weird to picture Klay Thompson, like, outside of the Warriors system whatsoever. I don't know what to expect. Like, it was so designed for him and Curry that I don't know. I don't know. The last couple things I got for you guys, Donovan Mitchell, it looks like he's going to be getting that max extension. Makes a lot of sense. He's a really, really good basketball player. Tyrese Maxey as well, the $205 million over 5 seasons. 2 potential All-NBA guys getting their money. Great stuff at the end of the day. Hey, so free agency is about to start and everything, right? So we're just around the corner from it. Is it today? Is it today? It might be today. I don't even remember. I'm so all over the place at this point. But just know I'm going to be covering it as much as possible on the channel. Obviously, I do have a business to run at the end of the day, so I'll try to get videos out as quickly as things start to happen and everything. For smaller moves, we'll probably bulk them all into kind of like videos like what you saw yesterday. For bigger ones, we'll try to have dedicated slots to them and everything. But hey, appreciate you guys as always. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave a comment. I've responded to every single comment on my channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. But hey, I appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.